What is up, Duval? It's your man Tony Wiggins here. We're locked on Jaguars. Everyone wants to get a wide receiver, but no one will give you details on where you can actually get those wide receivers from. Well, guess who will give it to you? I will, and I'll do it like I always do it, raw and organic right here on Locked on Jaguars on a Friday.
Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, man? What's happening, good people, on a Friday? I'm Tony Wiggins here with Locked On Jaguars, and we thank you for making us your first listen, as you do every day, because it's your team every day, and because not only is the content good, we are free on all platforms. Specifically to you guys that watch the YouTube videos, I do appreciate you too as well. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Tell your friends, just subscribe too. Doesn't hurt anything, right? I want to talk today about wide receivers. I want to talk today about some of the things about the wide receiver position and how to acquire them and where you get them from. And I think so many times the Jaguars, who have been bereft of wide receiver talent for a few years now, especially this year with Trevor Lawrence, and now you see you can really tell when you have a strong arm quarterback what the actual problem is. We're going to discuss that too, okay? But today's show is all about wide out. So last year and the year before, when the offense was pretty inept when it had to be, even though statistically this team would see some production. They'd see big numbers. Gardner Minshew's stats were always really good. One of the things that hurt the team, and I always said, and you guys know you can finish the sentence for me, numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story. And many times you can get stats when teams know that you probably really can't hurt them very much and that the game is over and they can win games and they can give you stuff underneath all day. Well, when you try to figure out what's wrong with the team, the first thing that people thought was it's got to be the quarterback. It's got to be the fact that Gardner Minshew's arm isn't strong and he has to telegraph passes, and he's such an anticipatory thrower because he doesn't have the ability to rifle a ball in that small window when the guy is open, especially those downfield in the middle of the field. That's very, very easy for people to defend the Jacksonville Jaguars and this team. It turned out to be partially true because now you actually have a strong arm quarterback and you have receivers that aren't getting open. And for I'm not going to sit here and talk about scheme all day, because if I can't implement a scheme to make them open, then I'm not going to criticize Darrell Bevel, who's trying to implement a scheme, because if the receivers, if they can't get open, if they're no good, it probably doesn't really matter what scheme you're running. Or if they're not getting open and very good, it probably doesn't matter that Darrell Bevel's not able to do what he wants to do. If you try to make somebody do something they don't want to do with bad players, then it's on the fact that you have bad players. So, that dude has more football knowledge in his pinky fingernail that he's going to discard the next time he gets a manicure than I do in my entire lifetime. So I have to be very, very careful. Whenever you criticize something, you better have the answer to it. So one of the things that we have criticized is the lack of wide receiver talent on this team. Where do you find it? I put out a poll early in the week in a hypothetical. If you had the top 3 pick and the Seahawks were having a fire sale, would you trade that top 3 overall pick for DK Metcalf? Straight up. The resounding answer for some people was no. It's 50-50, actually. The people that would go, yep, it's a bird in the hand. I know what it is. He's 23 years old. He's one of the top 6 or 7 guys in the league. I mean, what do you expect? You expect and you hope that when you pick number 3 overall that you get a guy who's a top 6, top 7 player at some point, and he's already that. And the fact that you could sign him, you could play him next year, and then franchise tag him 2 years after that, meaning you could probably have DK Metcalf for about 3 years for about $45 million. It's not like you're giving him a $100 million contract right away. you can play it out the way other teams do. So, yeah, I would strongly consider it, and so did some people who I made contact with, and asked them about it. Guys who had been in the league for a while, and guys who are now coaching college who had been in the league for a while, and they all say you'd have to definitely think about it because he's just that good and that dynamic. And he's the one thing that the people here in this town seem to think that the Jaguars need most, correct? I, on the other hand, have tried to take this position that they need to make sure they get the best player available and upgrade the entirety of the team. Most people then come back and go, it drives me crazy too, by the way, but most people come back and go, you better get 3 wide receivers first. I didn't say first. I said they need to upgrade other positions. And I also know that the major position of upgrade they need is wide receiver. But if it doesn't present itself, it doesn't mean you ignore everything else and then just go get 3 subpar players with primary resources that you could use on better talent. It doesn't work that way. And sometimes in team building, you are not allowed to use everything to get the thing you need the most just to fill a square. Sometimes what you really have to do is you have to realize that this is not a fill your square league. This league is made up of teams that win because they have better players than other people. Now, they also have to have a complete team in order to fulfill their potential. So to all of the check your box people and you can't do nothing if you don't have this, while you might be right, when you're also devoid of talent, you don't just fill squares just to fill squares. You better get the most talented people you can wherever they play, figure it out. Here's what you've never, ever, ever heard in the history of sports radio, of sports coach speak, of you've never, ever, ever heard anybody say something like this. He's a great player, but he just doesn't fit. And them not really mean he's a great player, but the coach doesn't know how to use him. You don't, when you have great players fit in any scheme. Aaron Donald should be a 3 technique in a 4-man front. For the last 5-6 years, Aaron Donald has been a defensive tackle in a 3-4 front. Von Miller should have been a Sam linebacker or some dude 9 wide in a 4-man front his whole career. In a 4-3. He wasn't. Von Miller was whatever they wanted him to be. Hands down, 4-man front, standing up, 3-man front, lightning package, standing in between the guard and the center, coming up to A-gap. He's whatever. Because you don't build Von Miller around your system. You build your system around Von Miller. You don't build Aaron Donald around your defense. You build your defense around Aaron Donald. Great players fit anywhere, anytime. That's why you have to get them. All right? I want to talk about wide receivers. And I want to talk about how this team is going to be able to grab wide receivers. And I keep saying that with an S, plural, because I think they need a boatload of them. You got me? I think they need a bunch of receivers. And I'll tell you where they're going to get them from and how they can get them and what are the possible scenarios in just a second after I tell you about Boost Mobile. What is Boost Mobile? Well, you listen to podcasts for the power of knowledge. I hope I make you smarter. You switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money. Because with Boost, you get the power of a free 5G phone so you can listen to all the latest episodes of Locked On Jaguars. The power of 3 unlimited data lines for $30 a month per line so your family can harness all that brain power too. And the power of one of America's largest 5G networks so you can do it all at the speed of 5G. With all that money you'll save and all that knowledge you'll gain, just how powerful will you become? Switch to Boost Mobile and find out. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A32 5G when you switch to one of America's largest 5G networks. More power to save, Boost Mobile. Now listen, free phones are limited to new customers, one per line. And additional restrictions apply. Offers and coverage not available everywhere for all phones and networks. See boostmobile.com for details. All right, man, rolling along. All right, we need wideouts. Enough for the fluff. We're going to get to it. We ain't going to bury the lead. We need wide receivers. We need weapons for Trevor Lawrence. We need guys that can win and guys that can separate. I'm going to give you a disclaimer first. The disclaimer that I'm going to give you at first is this. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I would do. Well, when I do that, I'm going to tell you this is what I would do. But I'm going to tell you what I think they will do. I'm going to assume Urban Meyer and Trent Baalke are still in charge of player development and procuring talent, and that they're given another year. And I'm going to assume and presume that they're not going to change, that they're going to be who they always are and just try to be an improved version of themselves. I'm not saying any of that is a good idea, but for the sake of this exercise, that's exactly what I'm going to do, right? I'm also going to assume that we're going to go free agency first. So here's what happened in free agency, right? One thing I would do is I would go to DJ Chark while he's injured and try to put some guaranteed money in his pocket right now. He may not take it, but I'll go, DJ, let's do a prove it year. Let's get one more year in the contract in this new system. Let's rehab you. Let's get you right. I'll give you like $8 million to sign for 1 year. Will you do it? If he says yes, he's on board. If he says no, I let him test the market. Right? But he's a good kid. And if he wants to negotiate and says, make it 2 years at $15 million with $10 million guaranteed, I'd probably go ahead and do it. I'd probably do it. So there you go. You keep a guy in the fold who's a professional, who you know his work ethic, who has shown flashes of being good, who has really good size at 6'4", and you go, all right, I'll keep you in the fold. So here's what you have. If you're at that point before free agency starts, here's what you have. You have DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, you have Marvin Jones Sr., and you have Jamal Agnew, who's your sort of a gadget player. And I would put Jamal Agnew in a situation like this. I would combine my running backs and my wide receivers, and I know how many roster spots I eat up. He's a guy that can give me snaps at both, okay? But he's a 2 or 3 touch guy a game for me. He's not, especially when you get these weapons around, he can be real dangerous. But mainly he's going to be our kick returner because we're going to anticipate getting Travis Etienne back. But he's going to be a guy you can throw on the field. He's going to be a guy that can be your Swiss Army knife, like when you need somebody to step in when somebody may be banged up. All right. So we'll go from that and we'll go, okay, I got those guys that I just named. That's 4 dudes. Chark, Shenault, who I'll be putting on notice now, you need to show me something. And he's another guy that I may look at as a versatile partner, as a versatile piece. But it's really, you got Chark and you got Jones. Those are the guys that to me will make up, to me, the bottom of your receiving core, of your core receiving core. So now I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, free agency is about to start. We need speed. We need speed that's multiple, speed that's versatile. So everybody who wants to go, and when I say speed, I mean functional speed, not just Isaiah McKenzie, some fast dude. I mean, you need a guy who can play, a guy who can win. For the people out there telling me Devontae Adams, I try to be realistic and I look at where this organization is and I look where he is in his career. And I know there are folks that are saying back up a Brinks truck. I think Devontae Adams is going to get a ton of money wherever he goes. I just don't see a guy at that point in his career coming here. Folks talk about A-Rob. Alex Robinson might be inclined to come back to this area. Sure, he can win. He's not fast. But once again, those are guys that have played for bad organizations their entire life. If they get the same money and the same offer from someone who's already set up and already structured, and then it depends what Aaron Rodgers is going to do, because you'll see 2 guys like that. Devontae is already his teammate. He might decide to go with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a free agent. What if the Steelers say, come to play here? And they got the money and they can afford it. What if the 49ers called Devontae Parker and say, look, man, look what we got out here. We got all of this stuff. So you got to start to think and wonder. He's a California kid. He wants to play with a big-time quarterback. He probably wants a chance to win. You got to think that guys like that are going to be looking at situations where what if the Patriots called him? You see, you're just up against it when you're trying to battle for a dude that's a first ballot Hall of Famer who's probably on his last big contract. So I'm going to be realistic and say that's not going to happen. I'm going to be realistic and say they look up at Allen Robinson and say, nah, that ain't really kind of what we're looking for. I'm going to be real and just let you know that a couple of guys that did fit the mold, Cortland Sutton, who's a 1 alpha type, who had his best game of the season right here in front of Urban Meyer, who can run, who is tall, who can also get the underneath stuff, and who can demand the kind of attention that you would hope a guy that you pay. Well, he's off the market. He re-signed already with Denver. They also signed Terry Patrick, the other wide receiver. So Denver kept their guys in place to go along with Jerry Jeudy, who's on a rookie contract. You look around, and now it starts to thin out. Mike Williams, I think the Chargers are going to keep Mike Williams because Keenan Allen's their older receiver. They're going to try to keep Mike Williams. And even if they don't, Mike Williams, he has to – I like Mike Williams because he wins, but he has to fit the profile of the people who are doing the evaluation, and those guys are placing a premium on speed. Then we get to Michael Gallup. This is a guy that I've been on for quite a while. 1, because he's fast. 2, because he wins at the point of attack. 3, because he is probably sitting there wanting to be the number 1 guy, much like the kid down in Tampa that I'm going to get to here in just a few minutes. But Chris Godwin. The difference is, I think Chris Godwin, while I think they are very, very close in actual talent, I think Godwin's had more success, and he's had that success because he's played in a Bruce Arians offense where they throw the ball a whole lot, and he's been the second or third guy most of those times. Gallup at one point was the second guy when it was just him and Andre and Cooper until they went out and got CeeDee Lamb because he fell to him in the draft, and Gallup ended up being a number 3 guy. And really, he's like a number 2 because Amari Cooper and Lamb, that's like 1 and 1A. And Dallas actually have another receiver named Cedric Wilson, who's number 4 receiver, and he's very, very good. And they have a 5th receiver who's also showed a lot, and they're loaded, and they can't keep him. And the reason why I say they can't keep him is because they're paying out everybody so much money that I don't think they'll ever find it feasible, especially when they have Cedric Wilson and all of these other guys, to give a guy a Cortland Sutton type deal, which is a 4-year, $64 million deal with about half of it guaranteed. I think the Jaguars can, and I think the Jaguars can look at Michael Gallup and say, "This the one. Come on, man. We got room for you. We need a guy who can do the things that you do." And there are people that's been hitting me up saying, "Oh, he's not a number 1. Why would you pay him? Somebody said give him a 2-year, $10 million prove it deal." Are you kidding me? Galloway got $72 million from the Giants last year. It's not about what we want to do. It's about what the market bears out. That kid is not going to play for anybody for $5 or $10 million or a 2-year, $15 million deal as if he's coming off of an injury or something. Michael Gallup is going to get paid by somebody. And if it's not a team like Jacksonville, it'll be a team like Green Bay that needs another wide receiver on their team. So trust me. And you might have to come out of the bag a little bit more for him because he's just a guy that has very low miles and he's 25 years old. So what if you can get him? What if you can give him a 4-year, $82 million deal or a 5-year, $88 million deal with a bunch of guarantees and structure it so that a lot of teams can't get him? You do it in a heartbeat. So now what do we have? We have DJ Chark coming back. You had Michael Gallup. You have Laviska Shenault, and you have Marvin Jones. But I'm going to tell you what else you can do. You're going to double dip. You're going to come back in the draft. You're going to get 2 more. I'm going to give you a couple of names of who I think those two guys can be. And I will do that in just a second here on a Friday on Locked On Jaguars after I tell you guys about Built Bar. The holiday season is here, so you need to grab a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar or even better than a candy bar. Built Bar filled with so much holiday goodness, rich and decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calorie, sugar, net carbs, and fat, and high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. And they have so many flavors. My favorite one, of course, is salted caramel, and you could have said it with me at the same time. But Built Bar gives you that extra fuel that you need to bust down those mall doors and battle all the holiday shoppers. It also gives you the fuel to deal with sitting in traffic, because you'll be doing that as well, and you won't go to sleep at the wheel. So if you're just standing in endless shopping line, sitting in traffic, Built Bar can give you that extra something to keep you going. Because it's the season of peace and love, don't bring up your favorite Built Bar flavor at a family party or a function, because somebody's going to want a house and take it. Just like that old record commercial. You need to tell them, brother, this is my Built Bar. You need to buy your own. And if they're going to buy their own, they need to go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15, and they're going to get 15% off their order. So, by telling them no and giving them that old holiday elbow and tell them to get off your stuff, you can even tell them where to go. Tell them to go to built.com, use the promo code LOCK15, and they're going to get 15% off their order. Built Bar, give them a shot, and I guarantee you will not regret it. And you won't regret going to Bet Online and making your wagers for the holiday season either, because Bet Online remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to your new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code, which is Locked On, to receive your bonus. Now, you got football, you got basketball, you got boxing. There's always some UFC happening, and you even have your favorite Vegas casino games. So don't wait to take advantage of the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. I can tell you where you start every day, and that is here with me on Locked On Jaguars and making that your first listen. And we do appreciate you doing that with us, because it's your team every day. All right, so we've retained DJ Chark. We've added Michael Gallup. We've used some other currency in free agency to shore up our depth and make sure that we can compete. We'll probably try to find a safety. Let me give you Jesse Bates from Cincinnati, okay? They find Jesse Bates from Cincinnati. Guy can run all over the field, and Joe Cullen gets back to using some of his big nickel situations where he has three safeties on the field instead of three corners. So we'll keep that in mind as well, because you'll say, what about Andre Cisco? What about this? That's all right. Jesse Bates is an improvement over a lot of those people, all right? So you get Jesse Bates, you get DJ Chark, you go out and you invest in someone that can help you play right tackle, because I'm not going to give y'all Evan Neal today, but that's what you do, all right? So now, and you've plucked some guys, got some extra help on the defensive line. You retained DeJuan Smoot, who's a big part of what you do defensively. And let's just say you begin preliminary discussions to extend Josh Allen. So now it's like you took a slow approach. You didn't sign 13 middlings. You signed a big-time player in Gallup. You kept some of your core guys together in Chark and Smoot, and started talking with Allen about possibly extending him before his fifth-year option. You get a big-time safety in Jesse Bates, and you go out and find a veteran like Ryan Ramczyk or ask Terron Armstead, hey, you want to switch sides? And you franchise Cam again. So now you're kind of keeping everything intact, and you're using more of your cap space this year on getting bigger names, as opposed to using a whole bunch of little bit of cap space on a whole bunch of little people. So now you go into the draft, and you're sitting there, and you're number 3. You'll probably still look at Evan Neal just in case he falls to you, because he can also play left guard, right tackle, left tackle, and he's just that good. And you always want to fortify things up front for Trevor Lawrence. Or you could say, I'm going to get Derek Stingley. And the reason why I want to get Derek Stingley is because I don't have to go to a cover 2 shell now and give up run support, because now I have a pure man-to-man corner to play opposite Shaq, and I can take Tyson Campbell and put him in the slot and make him blitz because he's close to the quarterback and he's big and physical. So you can do that as well. A lot of options here. Or you could sit and you could say, whichever ones of the, and I'll say it like that, but whichever ones of those pass rushers falls, whether it's Kayvon Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson, I'm taking him. Now you're in the catbird seat sitting up there. You say, why are you bringing this up? Because you're supposed to be talking about wide receivers, Wig. I'm not taking a wide receiver that high. I'll sit and I'll take one of those players, because one of those guys has the potential to wear a yellow jacket one day if things goes right? And I know that speaks prematurely, but they come from somewhere. I'll take a great player, a guy that I think is great right now, that gives me a chance to be a perennial Pro Bowler. So you're going to sit there with a second and 2/3, right, in the draft. You got one or two choices. When the run of all of these receivers start going, and at some point it will, you'll have 2 guys from Ohio State. You have the kid from Arkansas. When you start seeing these run on these receivers, you can either give up a second and a third to come up and get a guy if it's someone you absolutely think you have to have on this team. And now that you know who's on your team, you can always envision taking that guy and adding him to the team. Or you can stand pat. Now, if you stand pat to the top of the second round, John Shipley wrote it on SI, and he put it on Twitter. Shout out to him. I have mentioned this in the past. I love that kid at Penn State, Jahan Dotson. Reminds me of T.Y. Hilton. Has a little bit of T.Y. Hilton in him. He's probably not that small. He's not a big dude, but he plays big. He catches with his hands. He has speed. He runs precise routes. I love him. And he would absolutely fit in with what they're trying to do here. You don't get him, I love David Bell at Purdue. Absolutely love David Bell at Purdue. You don't get him, you guys go watch tape of a kid named Jalen Tolbert at South Alabama. Love Jalen Tolbert. You don't get him, okay. If there's nobody else at the top of the second round, you take the best available player again. If he's an interior offensive lineman, you get him. If he's a big 5 technique type defensive tackle, you take him. You get the best available player you can again, and then you wait till the 3rd round. And in the 3rd round, here's some of the names that you're going to see. You might see this Drummond kid from Ole Miss. Or you could see a cat like John Mechie from Alabama sitting right there at the top of the 3rd round. George Pickens coming off of some health issues might be there from Georgia, might be there right there at the top of the 3rd round. You done missed out on Drake London and all of those guys because they went in the 1st. You see where I'm going now? That's where I'm at with it. Where I'm at with it is now you go get another guy who's caught a lot of balls in college. He has measurables. He can run, and there's no need to rush because now you have Gallup. You have Chark coming back who was healthy. You still have Marvin Jones, right? I could possibly use even both 3rd-round picks on wide receivers. Let me tell you why I did this way, talking about the 2nd and 3rd round. Because every single one of those wide receivers that are in free agency right now, that everyone keeps talking about, Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson, all of these dudes, except Mike Williams, Robert Gallup, the ones that got away, Courtland Sutton, guess where they came from? Round 2 or round 3 in the draft. And I think Gallup might have been a 4th-round pick. So how did they get valuable now? They got valuable now because they played well, which tells you that you can draft a guy in the 2nd, 3rd round, and sometimes even the 4th round, and then in 4 years, he's going to be the guy in free agency that everyone covets. And they're going to covet him because of production that you got from him. So now you can do the same thing. You don't have to be the guy that's always paying for what someone else, some player has done for another team. You can capitalize on it in the draft. Pay a guy like one of those guys who played well for somebody else, and he's already proven it, and then draft 2 guys in either round 2 and 3 or both in round 3 and hope that the same thing that they did for their team happens for you. You still touch all of the other positions. You still help the football team. You never reach, but what you end up doing is getting outstanding production out of the draft and grabbing a guy in free agency that can win one-on-one, that fights for the ball, that can run after the catch, and that can add team speed to your ball club. When you get these dudes like this, now the deficiencies of the other guys doesn't show up as much because he makes life easy for them. This is why Marvin Jones was able to catch so many passes before. This is why some of these guys, what if DJ Chark all of a sudden starts to look like the guy you thought he was? With a rookie, if it's Dotson, with a proven guy like Gallup, you know who's going to be extremely happy because you helped his offensive line and you've helped him, the guys that's going to catch the ball. You heard it. Trevor Lawrence is going to be happy. You know who else is going to be happy? James Robinson, because those boxes aren't stacked anymore. You know who else is going to be happy? Travis Etienne, because you can now use him and start pulling him into the game and using him the way Dallas used that Pollard kid. And every now and then when ain't nobody watching and paying attention, now here's a jet sweep with Jamal Agnew. That's how you become dynamic. You add more talent to the team, but you don't have to, and this is why we don't have to argue on social media anymore. You don't have to sell your soul and reach for guys when there's other great players at other positions standing right there. You can help this team tremendously, and you can do both. You can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. And you can walk and chew bubblegum by having fun watching games and betting. But before you go to Bet Online, I need you to do something. You need to go to watch and subscribe to Locked On Bets podcast with your boy Q and Lee Sterling, because they're going to teach you some of the things and the mechanisms that you need to get your mind right so you can understand what you're doing, so you can just have fun watching the games and collect some coin too. So make sure you find and subscribe the Locked On Bets podcast and make it your second listen every day, because we're your first listen. You're listening here on Locked On Jaguars. We appreciate you, man. Y'all have a great weekend, and I will see you guys Monday. Hopefully the Jaguars can go out west. We did a crossover yesterday with Sosa from Locked On Rams. Hopefully, I predicted them to lose 37-10. So hopefully I'm wrong. So we'll see if I'm wrong about that come Monday. But that'll be a perfect example for you to also take a look at a team in the way that they drafted their wide receivers. They had Cooper Kupp and they had Robert Woods, and a couple of years ago they used a 3rd-round pick on Van Jefferson. And then you can never get enough. They got Odell now. You can never get enough wide receivers. And they had Odell. They agreed to get Odell before Robert Woods got hurt, because that's the mindset. So when you see those guys running all over the field and getting open, that's kind of the mindset that I'm trying to give you guys to think about Jacksonville, because you need as many of them as you can get. Until then, man, I'll see y'all Monday. You guys take care. One love, man, here from Locked On Jaguars.